when I went back to finish my bachelor's, and I had the privilege of doing it at a little bit of a later age. I did it, I think I was 26 or 27 when I think it was 27 when I went back, and I did 2 years at Calvary Chapel Bible College in Murrieta, California. But I got to do my third semester abroad, and I got to live in Israel for a whole semester, 4 months. And we lived right outside the old city. Up Ben Yehuda Street, there's like a McDonald's there that everybody knows about. And we lived really close to there. That's where our dorms were. And most of the semester, we had classes. We had a professor from Hebrew University come and teach us, and we got some really cool classwork. But most of it was traveling around and just seeing everything, visiting the historic sites and visiting a lot of the places that we get to read about in Scripture and antiquity. And one of the things that I got to experience is many of the sites related to the New Testament, you have to kind of be a little bit more skeptical about, because the Catholic Church and the Orthodox churches kind of came in and laid claim, like, okay, this is the place where such and such happened, and we're going to build a whole thing here, and almost in some sense deifying or worshiping that place, like almost turning it into an idol. And so when you're visiting a lot of those sites, some of them are very, very authentic, but at this point they're just very much a place. I just did not enjoy being in those places. That's the nicest way I could put it. But when you go to places like the Sea of Galilee and you're actually traveling around Galilee, and we would, getting to live there, we weren't tourists. So like we were doing cannonballs off of the really high pier from Tiberias into the sea, and like climbing over fences we weren't supposed to climb. I think I got kicked out of Masada actually, because we were like climbing on the walls we weren't supposed to climb on. I'm like so sacrilegious in doing this, and I really did. The military came and like kicked our whole thing out. I was in big trouble with the headmaster, and we had so much fun, and we got to see, you really do get to see, like if you go to Capernaum, you get to see the synagogue where Jesus really does perform the miracle that shows up in the Gospels. You get to see very most likely what is Peter's house, in the house that they would have met at for prayer meetings in the early church. So there is a lot of authentic sites. Where the sites are incredibly authentic and historical is the Old Testament sites. It's the stuff from antiquity. You can go to Tel Dan, and you can walk on streets that Abraham walked on from 2000 BC. It's incredible. You see the richness of 4,000 years ago. You get to, that transports you, and you just take that in. You get to go to these places that almost seem legendary, and it's like, wow, that's real. And so it was an incredible experience, and I always recommend people that want to take a trip over there. Absolutely, it's great. I also, one of the things I experienced is some people go to Israel because they think that it will give them a greater spiritual experience of God and even of Christ, as though by being there, they'll get to be closer to God, or maybe by visiting certain sites that they'll have a deeper spiritual experience of God. I don't agree. You don't need to go to Israel to experience God in a deeper way. You don't need to actually walk through the places that you read about in Scripture to experience the depth of who God is in your life. It's great to enhance your perspective and your understanding of what you read in scripture, it's great. It puts things in incredible perspective. So if you have an opportunity to go, it's great, but you don't need to. And I think that's a great qualifier. And many of us talked about that while we lived there, and even felt that and shared that as we lived there, of like, this isn't some magical thing. This isn't some magical experience, some mystical experience. This is a very historical experience.